What's up, Melanated family? This is your brother Harrison. Brand new episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. I am happy to be back. Got a new episode today. No interview today. This is more like a conversation. You feel me? Because I got my brother on the show today. My brother, his name is Jermaine Morris. I'm gonna have him tell you guys about himself here in a minute. But the inception of my platform of me speaking to people and being in this light started with me talking to this brother, and he's a radio host himself. He's done a lot of good things in the community. He's mentored me to a degree, so I'm happy to have him on the show today. So today, me and Jermaine is going to go back and forth about a lot of the different news stories going on in our community. We want to talk about it, provide a great conversation, a great base for a conversation. If you're listening to this on one of the digital platforms in which those numbers have been going up lately, I appreciate you. During the show today, we're going to play some news clips. You can't see it, but you'll definitely be able to hear it. If you ever want to watch the Melanated Convo podcast, you can always go to the Melanated Convo podcast on YouTube. But I'm happy for everybody to be here. Please like, please share. Let's get everything popping. So Jermaine Morris, how you doing today, brother?
I'm pretty good. I'm doing pretty well today. Good to see you again.
Definitely. So tell everybody what you do, because I've had you on the show multiple times, but you're in the similar vein. So tell everybody what you do.
So by business, I'm a certified coach and consultant with a practice which is based around a DISC assessment, which basically is a process of showing how an individual interacts with people, deals with problems, helps people coach people through communication styles, potential blind spots in behavior. That's what I work with as a business. I've been in broadcasting in some way, shape, or form for 20 plus years now. And then just try to do my part in the community.
Definitely. Yes. Because me and Jermaine is definitely, we've did several things in our community here in Sacramento, California together. Yeah. So the brother definitely puts his feet to the ground and, do what we can to help our people, man. That's all it's about. So today we're going to get into a few topics, right? My brother Jermaine sent me a few things and I'm like, you know what? I wanted to talk about that anyway. So let's get it going. You know what I mean? So first things first, and I want to get your full scope on all of this because this is interesting to me, right? Okay. First things first, our sister Whoopi Goldberg, she went on The View and she made some comments that got everybody upset. So first thing we're going to do, family, for everybody listening, we're going to play what she said exactly here just so we can get a scope of how we can gain perspective. Because sometimes when I read stories, the reason why I play videos now, guys, because when I read a story at times, the inflection in the voice, the meaning of what they're trying to say, sometimes that can get lost in you trying to read it. So I got some new technology or whatever, so I'm gonna use it. We gonna listen to the sister and see what she had to say. So let's see here. Okay, so this is what Whoopi Goldberg had to say on The View. I think this was either Monday or Tuesday. Let's see here if I can get this going. Okay, there we go.
Isn't about race.
No.
Hold on, let me back it up just a little bit.
Just outside of their own house.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race. No, it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy.
It's not about race. But these are two white groups of people.
Well, they have to black people
as white. But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. So if you're uncomfortable, if you hear about mouse, should you be worried? Should your child say, oh my God, I wonder if that's me? No, that's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, I don't want to be like that.
Well, hopefully. I want to be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's enough of that. But here's the thing, Jermaine, before I throw it to you, let me go ahead and remove that here. So first off, I don't like the fact that the sister got suspended from her show for saying that. I don't think that's that egregious. That's a teachable moment. But the biggest thing I see from Whoopi in that moment, bro, is, and again, people have told me, and I don't know this to be true. I tried to search for stuff. People told me that Whoopi's a coon and she said things that's disparaging to us. And I was kind of going into this that way. Like, let me see, has she been talking about us and then denoting denoting what we've had to go through and minimizing it and to appease the network she's on? I didn't see those things from her, so I can't speak to that. But this clip sounds like Whoopi is actually, sounds like an all lives matter statement almost. Like, it's not about race in general. It's just about good people and bad people. I don't think that's true. I'm gonna throw it to you in a second. I'm looking at over like how Hitler viewed what he was doing. It seems like at that time he did base it on race. He felt, the Jews were a lower standard race. His ideology kind of coupled race into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I was okay. So my feelings about this. So I hearing what she said. People kept saying, well, she was just wrong or she was misinformed or what have you. So it depends on what you're looking at. So at the root of what she's saying, she's correct. That when you look at what the Holocaust was, when you look at any injustice amongst people, the top of the pyramid is man's inhumanity towards man.
Of course.
And so then sexism, racism, ageism, classism, all of that is under the umbrella of man's inhumanity to man. So if you're trying to have the conversation on, let's just start with how human beings treat and deal with one another, you will inadvertently cover all the things that are under that umbrella. But there are people, where she was irresponsible is that she was on a television show in front of millions of people, and the nuanced stuff, you can't just jump the tracks. So it's almost like if you're addressing Colin Kaepernick, Brian Flores stuff, you can say, well, this is not about football. Okay, but because it's not. But, well, it's in the NFL, so it is about football. Hitler and the Holocaust is about how human beings are inhumane to one another. So to say it's not about race, at that root, it's not. But you can't skip through that town to get to there in conversation on that type of platform.
Definitely.
So where she was at, because of how sensitive a subject it is and how important of a subject it is, you always have to add that. It would almost be like if somebody said, well, slavery at root was man's inhumanity to man. It wasn't about race. At the root, that's true, that it's about man's inhumanity to man, but race is what was the catalyst in the engine in that vehicle to continue to propel it.
Definitely. So, and like you're saying, I think maybe because you're right, sound bites is something crazy these days, like how they chop up what you say. You don't have enough time to speak. I'm sure she's on some type of time limit. I say you make sure you throw that in there, like just to be sensitive to everything. You have to throw in the fact that, at the core of everything, it's humanity in man treating each other a particular way, but there's always undertones of what actually happens. And, being aware that on a show that big, it seems like in any form, but on a show that big, it seems as if you can't really speak about the Jewish community in a particular way without there being some outcry or some sort of disciplinary measure. But that wasn't that bad to me. You know what I'm saying, Jermaine?
No, I agree with you because, and I think in regards to her intent, I think the state has been used over and over again. There was no malicious intent in what she was saying. I think she was trying to have a greater conversation because she was saying when you make it about race, you have to go down this particular alley, which I think she was trying to make it to where this is a universal conversation about all the things that are under this umbrella. That let's just look at the way that human beings treat one another. Or the mistreatment of human beings. And if we address the way that human beings treat and mistreat one another, we can get to all these other things and we can curb and cure some of this stuff. But you have to preface what that type of dialogue, you have to preface up front, and you got to make sure everybody's on the same page, because if you just try to skip past addressing the racial component to the Holocaust, it's like dismissing the racial component of slavery. It's like dismissing the gender biases of women's issues. Like, you can't just jump into that without you got to check the temperature before you try to get into that, try to go into those waters.
And really, I think that's a trigger for a lot of people, because we have people who are racist and people who are conservative and people who are dismissive to our struggles who will say those terms, that particular term, it's not about race. So I think that triggered a lot of people just by her saying that. But it doesn't seem like she was malicious. She didn't seem like she had any ill will towards Jewish people. You know what I mean? But something real quickly, I wanted to touch on as well, Jermaine. It seems as if, and what I don't like, right? And it can be just me, but when you say something about Jewish people, because now we know they're white, he may have considered them to be a particular race then, but in today's society, they're treated fairly good amongst the white population to a large degree. But it's almost like their struggle, which the Holocaust was horrible. 6 million people, how he went about doing it, that process, I'm sure for anybody Jewish, you had a great grandma or anyone who had to deal with that. That's a travesty to have that marked in your history that way. But we've been through some stuff too. But it seems like you can get on TV and say certain things about Black people, not all the time, but a lot of people. You can say slight jabs at us and things about us, and even say nigga at times and all this type of stuff, and there's no discipline. That always upsets me a little bit, that other communities seem to get more protection than Black folks. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I agree, but I think the major line of that is not that they get more protection, is that they're more protective. So a great example right now throughout is the issue with Joe Rogan. And so there's the clip of Joe Rogan throwing the N-word around, like a compilation of all the times he used it on his show. And so you have Whoopi Goldberg, who makes a statement, for all intents and purposes, will say it irresponsibly, not without malice, whatever. Joe Rogan is on there speaking, throwing the N-word around, making jokes and this, that, and the third. The Jewish community circled the wagons around the situation with Whoopi, and said, even though she stated an apology, they brought on individual, I can't place his name at the top, but to come in and to educate about the significance, of Jewish history. Then they turned around and suspended her and docked her money, all to make sure this does not happen again. We have it on the end where Joe Rogan comes out saying this, and this has personally upset me. I saw more Black men specifically caping for Joe Rogan, saying that he's really a nice guy and he's really a good dude and he's not that way, who didn't say anything on Whoopi's behalf. So it's not even a question of if they're more protected, they're just more protective. They circle the wagons, they protect their own, and they make sure there's not going to be any other loose-lipped, people on TV or radio making any comments. We have this case right here. And instead of circling the wagon saying, no, that's not acceptable, Joe crossed the line, it's, no, he's really a nice guy. And no, he's not that way. And we show that we're not protective over each other.
Well, so when we look at what happened to Whoopi, like who instituted the discipline on her behalf? Was it, or who instituted the discipline on behalf of the Jewish community? Was it the ADL or an organization
Jewish
like that?
Executives at ABC.
Exactly. See, so when we're talking about what you just mentioned is like Black celebrities coming out and saying something as far as how Joe Rogan is concerned, it seems like Jewish people have more power. So they have executives and people in high positions who will step in and say, okay, Whoopi, you're not going to talk like this, because if you continue, we can affect your money and your bottom line. I think when it comes to Black folks, I don't know if we have enough people in the positions that can say, you know what, you said this, we're going to reprimand you. We're going to put you in a position where you have to apologize to us, because that's what I see happening a lot, Jermaine. A lot of apologies to other communities and not us all the time. You know what I mean?
Well, what I'm referring to is that the Jewish community was on code. As soon as there was the slightest hint of perceived disrespect, everybody got on code to address this immediately. On our end, blatant disrespect, and we're standing up for the wrong side. So even if we had a position of power or influence, we're not even on code when we address it.
So it wouldn't matter.
So I'm saying, so you don't get to a position of power when you can't even get on the same team. Like I said, those executives at ABC that personally may not have even cared, but you got to be on code for the big picture. You know that no, we don't take any form of slight or disrespect in any way, shape, or form. We nip it all in the bud. I don't care who it is. I don't care what the platform is, because that's staying on code. And when you start and you stay on that, when you start to get leverage, because you can't make an argument to get leverage or to get power when you can't even get on the same page to begin with. And like I said, the part that upset me was it wasn't even the fact that it was just people, and more specifically black men, who were caping for Joe Rogan. It's just that none of those people spoke up on Whoopi's behalf. So when you're saying, so what does this look like? Where you have to start taking people into consideration and watch the disrespect and watch what you say. It's like, for what? Like, you don't support your own and back them. And then when somebody disrespects, you don't check them. So why isn't it okay to disrespect you?
Okay, so because this is something I was thinking. I have to be honest. Well, Whoopi, when going into talking about this news story with you, I was a little weary because I felt like, damn, has Whoopi said something about us? Or I was considering this, and I understood what happened to her was wrong, and I didn't like that she was suspended. But as far as me going to bat for her, like you saying black men should, I was weary. Like, damn, what'd she say about us? What did she... Has she done something that's negatively affected my community before I jump out there on a limb for her? And I had to check myself just a little bit, because of course, if I realize, this is my stance, if you are a person who habitually speaks out against us, and to me it seems like an attempt to better your stance in society opposed to help us, I'm weary to jump out there for you. Talk to me about how you feel about that. About, let's say Whoopi was a coon. To the purview, as far as a person who obviously doesn't back black stance. I'm not saying she is, because personally I couldn't find nothing. Would that change your stance on, okay, those black men should have protected her maybe in public or in private? But you know what I mean? Talk to me about that.
If you're going to speak publicly, so let's just say, so this is the circle the wagons moment. This is the staying on code. So first off, addressing Whoopi. The biggest knock that's on Whoopi is, at this point now, 25 years ago, she used to be with Ted Danson.
I remember that.
Sam Malone on Cheers. And there was, I want to say it was an award or a charity event or something where Ted Danson showed up in blackface.
I read about that.
And so that's probably one of the most glaring things that, okay, this is your dude. And, you co-signing this blackface stuff, like that level of just, to my knowledge, that's probably one of the most blatant, we'll call it flags or knocks on her. But let's just say she's, like you said, for the sake of discussion, she's out there just cooning for the TV, doing whatever. If that's the case, and then you're not going to speak up for her behalf, if that's what your decision is, to me, it was the ones that then ran to defend the man who was blatantly saying stuff about our people. So if you don't want to side with Whoopi for whatever reason you feel that that's just, but you're going to come out and defend the guy who said that he was at a part of town with his friends, and he was some to the effects of, oh, we were in Planet of the Apes because it was all black people, and all this sort of stuff, all these disrespectful jokes and stories and commentary, you cape for that dude. So even if you don't want to defend Whoopi, why are you defending him in that?
Good point. Good.
If you're going to stay silent, then just stay silent.
Stay silent, because I'm not a big fan of Joe Rogan. I've watched some of his shows, some of his episodes. There's been some intriguing, informative information on his show. But when it comes to black people, it always rubbed me the wrong way about the things he say, about how he kind of plays both sides. I don't know if he's a racist, but he's made me feel uncomfortable with how he presents things. And it almost seems like, okay, I have to play the game almost because I'm going to be interviewing black people and be around them. So I'm not uncomfortable with them. But what you're saying is making sense, Jermaine. Like, that's being on code. Just being quiet. And then I say, you be quiet. And then let's say Whoopi, like for a celebrity or somebody that's big time. You be quiet. Then you text her. What's up? Let's have a conversation. I don't got to go at you in the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I said, if like I said, so the difference in the two dynamics culturally, like I said, the Jewish community took it as a slight, and the first thing they wanted to move is swift justice. We want to make sure this is clear and apparent that this is a behavior that will not be tolerated. Period. At the end of the sentence. We leave Whoopi to dangle in the wind. Within the same week, this guy, white dude, comes out, Rogan, starts, and it's a compilation of all the times he was using the N-word and then stories that were inappropriate and just disrespectful to us. And crickets, like from us, and then the only voices that were really loud were the ones that were siding with him. Like, I mean, to me, that's just a fundamental flaw in what the problem is and why we have to deal with, if we step out of line, having to get quote unquote corrected, and why people feel it's completely okay to do this to us because there's no repercussions for disrespecting Black people.
Very true. You know what I mean? And so that's a very good point, Jermaine. And also something I want to mention, even with everything Whoopi's going through, we're gonna talk about the brother Brian Flores here in a second. In my opinion, because really, I'm not comfortable with us being in a position where we can get reprimanded for saying something like this. So this always makes me think about the need for having our own. Now, granted, when I look at media and I look at content creators and the content available to me to consume as a Black man, there are Black shows. Like, I'm not gonna front. People be saying, "Oh, ain't no Black nothing on TV."
No, there
are. I'm not gonna say that. I see Black content. I see things I like, see things I don't like, but that's cool. That's just how the human brain works. But all too often, I see us being reprimanded by the people who don't look like us, and a part of me always says, "Damn, why don't we just work an angle where we can take this talent and what we've built and what we know that we're doing very well and take that same talent to a station that you may not get as many viewers or whatever. It may not be as luxurious as far as the accommodations or whatever, but I won't be in a position where I can be reprimanded and I can still talk about these same issues, because just because you're on a Black network or station doesn't mean you just have to talk about everything going on with Black people. It can just be a show like The View. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so this is the internet. Realistically, every type of content you think of exists out there. So there are channels and web pages and all that stuff that's completely catered to whatever you're looking for. But when you start talking about big major networks, that's when it starts to get through a funnel, and all these channels and companies all kind of funnel down to 2 or 3 doors, and the person in charge of those doors does not look like us.
Flat out.
So if you're trying to CBS, ABC, MTV, any Disney-based company, Fox, Paramount, all those, parent companies, if you're trying to get any of those or subsidiaries of those, the gatekeeper does not look like you. So you will be in a position to be reprimanded from somebody who does not look like you if you don't toe the company line. So the question is that why don't we do and have our own? It's because someone would rather have the possibility of being reprimanded for speaking in front of 10 million people than to not be reprimanded in front of 10,000. And so if you're trying to, get your money up, get your TV shows, get your movie deals, get all that sort of stuff, there's a price that comes with that.
Definitely. So the white ice is always colder to a degree, but I think maybe, like you're speaking about being on cold, to me, being on code is also because I don't want anyone Black, because sometimes we speak about celebrities and people who are Black who have a lot of money. And in my opinion, I want everybody to be on code. I think I have a revolutionary mindset, but someone who has $50 million and they're risking all of these particular things, they may think a little bit differently. But I would hope that all of us would be on code where we would say, okay, 10 million viewers is very intriguing, and that can help me and that can benefit me. But if I go to a station that has maybe 30,000, maybe if the audience isn't as big, but my impact in my community. Or Jermaine, I'll be thinking sometimes, is it possible for somebody to do both? Like, okay, we have a Whoopi who's in front of 10 million people on a particular show. My goal for her, being a Black woman, is, okay, this is what I always preach, in some form or fashion, help out your people. It don't have to be on TV. Talk to them about revolutionary stuff. Can Whoopi be on TV and do her job there? Give her views, whatever they may be, about anything that comes up. And then when she's not on TV, participate with organizations. Donate money to funds that help Black folks build particular things in our communities. A person can do both, right?
Yeah. Well, let's not sleep on Whoopi had been impactful in other areas in the course of her entire career. Different programs and charities and things like that. We're not going to act like she's not done anything, during the course of her lifetime. But when you're on a major network show that's catered, the premise of it is to have argumentative talking points and this, that, and third. Can she speak to Black issues? To a degree, but that's not who's even watching the show. So that's not even the program that spitting in the wind. Like can you speak something to your people? Yeah, but your people aren't the ones who watch The View. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, the idea of ownership of our own shows, of our own networks. I mean, this is stuff that we've been talking about forever. And you just have to get to a point to where you're going to have to sacrifice your money if you're trying to make an impact, because you can only toe the line but so long and still get opportunities. Because once you start speaking out of pocket, those opportunities will dwindle. So you have to make a decision on what it is you want to do. I mean, we have entertainers who can do major stuff, who deliver in their messages. Like if you take a Denzel Washington, most of his movies and stuff that he's been a part of, there's a certain character and a certain kind of portrayal of the projects that he picks. Where the way that, I mean, the one thing that he got an Oscar for, or the Training Day stuff, but most of the stuff, we could look at Denzel's body of work and say the way he's represented himself, even when he was Crooked Cops and some, or whatever he was doing, like we still hold him in high regard.
Definitely.
Because he's not doing out of pocket stuff to us as a people. So you could still go get big checks and still be good at your craft and still be in those rooms and get those big money and still represent your people and still speak and show up for your people. It does not have to be either or. It's just that, but there are certain jobs, if you take, you cannot. And if you're on one of those types of shows, that's not where you get to be your whole self.
Definitely. And, Whoopi has since apologized. Because again, I don't like how she phrased what she said, but it didn't seem like she was malicious or meant any ill will. So she apologized, and she'll be back on in a few weeks. But ultimately, how we're treated at times, that we always need to have the conversation when something happens to one of us, because it's glaring. Because I told you, my inclination was to say, wait a minute, I even spoke to my girl about it when she was like, we need to ride for Whitney. I mean, Whitney, we needed to ride for Whoopi. Whoopi, they can't be treating us like this. I said, we can't ride for no coon. That was the first thing out of my mouth, Jermaine. I said, I ain't riding for her. She'd kill me, because I'm a big proponent from history and knowing coon, a person who doesn't mean us any good, who will act like they're with us and then betray us. These individuals have been deadly throughout history. But there's a line you have to toe, and you have to be clear on who someone is before you can make this assertion. But at times, I'll see something without researching it, and I'll just hear things from people. I'm like, oh yeah, but I had to look it up today. I'm like, let me look and look and look. I seen the Ted Danson thing. I'm like, that's a red flag. But that don't make me say she is this. You know what I mean? So we have to be careful when we assess our brothers and sisters. But like you were saying, a code of conduct is absolutely necessary, and there's a lot of different facets of it, and some of us just don't realize how important that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because if you go through a lot of these other communities, it's not based on the fact that they all like each other. It's not even based on the fact that they even respect one another. It's you are a representative of this team. So regardless of how I feel about you in the position you play, you represent us. So we need to hold a certain line for the good of all of us. And we'll deal with you individually. But we're not going to let them mess with us.
Good God, we protect you in front of them and get you in the back room and discipline.
And we'll do all that correcting when we get over here. But what they don't realize is, what they realize that we deal with, but sometimes I don't think we get. So little fun fact. Most white people in America, do not have an intimate relationship with a black person.
Very true.
Most don't. And so there may be somebody at the job or somebody that they went to school with, but we talk about intimate relationship. I know you, you know me, you know my mama, I know your daughter. We really, really know each other. Most white people don't. Because there's this misnomer that black people are everywhere. Like there's major pockets, major areas of the United States where there's a very, very, very small black population.
Yep.
And then there's even segregation in those areas. So there's a lot of white people that don't know. Most of the information they get about black people is TV, music, movies, and the internet. So they're looking at us when they see us in life. We are representatives of the group. So when they meet us, they're either looking for confirmation or they're looking to see if, or new information. Because you'll hear stuff, oh, you're black, but you're not like other black people. Because I had a preconceived notion based upon the music I've heard, the TV shows I saw, and you don't fit the stereotype of what I think you're supposed to be. So you're black, but you're not like a regular black person.
Yep.
Yeah. Or see, that's just like that movie. See, that's how they act. See, that's exactly how they are. So as representatives, when we're out there, they see us as a representative, but we don't see us as representatives. We don't realize that him out there doing this, her out there doing that affects the team. So we just can't have all this loose disrespect, which is why it's so detrimental when we publicly disrespect each other. We're the only group of people that puts our community shortcomings to music. You know, we put all our shortcomings to a dance beat and allow the disrespect to flood the dance halls. So when we disrespect each other and we allow ourselves to be disrespected, then other groups feel like it's completely okay. But they're very quick and very clear about making sure we are not disrespectful to any other group. You know, LBGT community will come down on you with great vengeance and furious anger. You know, Jewish community will come down with you with both barrels. Latino community will come at you quickly. Asian community will come at you quickly. Disrespect black people every which way to Sunday, because the very first comment is, well, listen how they talk to each other. Because we don't stay on code.
Definitely. Well, shout out to the sister Whoopi Goldberg. I know she's back on the show. I don't know all the details of her because, like you said, she's done things for us in the past. And I think after just researching this story, I learned something, because I'm hell on black people who I feel don't represent us the right way, who I feel don't mean us, who don't care about our liberation and are doing us a disservice. But I learned how you approach them, how you reprimand them, because you could be right, like they did something wrong, but how you approach it is all that matters. Yeah. Because you mentioned something that I knew already. Some white people don't like each other. This deal got to get done. He's the guy. I got to do it with him. He's an asshole. They'll say it, and they'll go right to lunch with him, make the deal, call him an asshole when they leave, but the deal's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's extremely important. Now, next thing I want to touch on with my brother, a NFL football coach, head coach named Brian Flores, recently fired by the Miami Dolphins, has begun a lawsuit against the NFL. Actually, he's filing a lawsuit. He's suing the Dolphins, the Broncos, and the Giants, alleging discrimination regarding his interview process with Denver and New York, and his firing last month by Miami. Now, the 58-page lawsuit was filed in Manhattan Federal Court Tuesday and seeks class action status. Now, Flores alleged that the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, attempted to incentivize him to tank or purposely lose games shortly after he was hired in 2009, with Ross allegedly offering Flores $100,000 for every loss that season. Flores says that as the team won games late in the season, Dolphins general manager Chris Greer told him Ross was mad that the on-field success was compromising his draft position. Additionally, Flores alleged that Ross pressured him into recruiting a prominent quarterback. I was trying to think about who that could be. A prominent quarterback at the end of the 2019 season, which the coach refused so as not to violate the NFL's tampering rules. Ross then alleged invited Flores onto a yacht for lunch in the winter of 2020, where he informed him that the quarterback was conveniently arriving at the marina for an impromptu meeting. Now, Flores refused the meeting and left the yacht. Afterwards, Flores alleged that he was treated with disdain and held as someone who was non-compliant and difficult to work with. He was fired January 10th, despite recording the Dolphins' first back-to-back winning seasons since 2003. He was 10-6 in 2020. He was 9-8 in 2021. Flores also alleged that the Giants interviewed him last month for their head coaching vacancy for no other reason than to be compliant with the Rooney Rule, which requires every team to interview a minority candidate for the open position. The league has amended that rule in recent years and now says team must hold an in-person interview. He says that some of the people who came to interview him showed up drunk, showed up inebriated, like they showed up like they didn't want to be involved in the interview, right? He allegedly spoke with the Giants via Zoom on January 18th prior to the team hiring former Buffalo Bills assistant general manager Joe Sheen as its GM on January 23rd. He said that the next day, Schoen finalized his interview date on January 27th. The Giants' co-director of player personnel, Tim McDonald, texted Flores saying that he hopes that he would get the job. However, hours later, Flores' lawsuits allege he received a secret text message from Patriots coach Bill Belichick, under whom Flores worked for 10 years in New England. In those texts, Belichick told Flores he heard from Buffalo in New York that he was the guy for the job. Flores would later realize that he was talking about Brian DeBall instead of him. So the Patriots coach sent him that text in error. So when you first hear that story, him suing them, we know how the NFL has treated black coaches. The Rooney Rule hasn't really made a strong impact the way maybe it should. NBA has a higher rate of hiring black coaches. What was the first thing you thought about when you seen that, Jermaine?
In regards to Brian Flores, so when Brian Flores was fired in Miami, so I was like, that's stupid. But I was like, he's gonna land quickly.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good coach. And so I was like, so then the reports started coming out, then it was like the lawsuit and stuff. I was like, because people were mentioning it before the lawsuit happened. It's like Brian Flores should get scooped up pretty quick. Like he's a good coach. He took a subpar team with a bottom level quarterback and put together back-to-back winning seasons. I mean, he did a lot with very little. So the fact is, like, okay, well, he's going to be free out there in the market. He's going to get a better gig than Miami. All the teams that were firing coaches is like, he's going to get scooped up. And then with all this stuff coming out, I wasn't surprised just because of history. And then as the more information was coming out about that situation, he wasn't fired because he wasn't a good coach. He was fired basically for two reasons. The one, that he wouldn't tank games, and two, he didn't want Tua. So Tua is not the quarterback he wanted. I think he wanted like Herbert or Burrow, one of those guys. And he was just like, but he got Tua. And then he wouldn't tank those games. So they started labeling him as disruptive and hard to work with and all that. So the lawsuit, I'm like, it makes sense. I mean, he's willing to fall on the sword for his career. He most likely won't coach it again. But also what's said about him is he's somebody who's not going to settle. So he's going to take this lawsuit 12 rounds, and there's going to have to be something that's going to be put in to, I believe, in his mind to change, because he's got a valid leg to stand on with this lawsuit.
Definitely.
And with the Belichick text, that definitely hurts the Giants case. And even the John Elway statement got holes in it for his account for what happened. So, if Brian Flores can get this win, he's not in it. He was saying he's not in it just for money. So I'm sure somewhere in the, if he gets the distance and wins, they'll have to put something in place. The Rooney Rule at its root was a good idea, but there's less black coaches in the league now than before the rule was put into place. So there's obviously some changes that need to happen. But I think the highlighting part about this lawsuit is it's shining light on something that if we just did nothing, if no one said anything, this practice would quietly continue. And if Mike Tomlin decides to retire, there'd be zero black coaches in the NFL.
Zero black coaches in the NFL. And I think when I look at Brian Flores, I was so impressed by this brother.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick is in the same, because when we seriously look at our liberation and how things have had to move forward,
Yeah.
how we've moved forward, how we've made progress. From my perspective, it's never really been some governmental policy that's put us in a position. It's been a institution that wasn't treating us correctly, and a black individual saying, "Hey, this isn't right." Now, because I'm such a large figure in this institution, when I say what I say or do what I do, it's going to directly affect the money I make.
Yeah.
It's going to directly affect my family's bottom line. Like tomorrow, like I say it today, tomorrow it's going to affect my family's bottom line. And too many of us say, you know what? Nah, fuck that. I know that's wrong. I know that's wrong. Maybe I'll try to help some other way. But to put my neck on the line to say, stop right now, many of us aren't willing to do it. And I salute this brother, because I watched the interview with him, which in a minute I'm going to play a clip of something that I think is pertinent. But I watched the interview with him, and he was mentioning how his son was asking him, "Daddy, when are you going to get a job?" He wasn't asking him, his son is too young. He wasn't saying, "Good job being revolutionary. Fight for these brothers." That's not what he said. He said, "Man, look, we're going to need some food, player.
Yeah.
When is the job going to come?" So for him to be dealing with that and still be in alliance with, because him doing this is for a bigger cause. And all too often, and to a degree, I can't blame brothers. I understand needing money. I understand needing to feed your family and needing to worry about your future. I get that. But at some point, if we don't like what's going on, we're going to have to step up, Jermaine.
Yeah. So, I mean, he could have very easily fell back and took a coordinator job, which would have been available. And then, there's still, I think, 2 coaching positions left. I think it's Houston and one other team are still deliberating on hiring a coach. So it's still possible one of them could pick him up, even though this lawsuit is pending. But when you're saying that, like, I'm watching this, I know a part of one thing said, he felt humiliated at this process of just these, they refer to them as sham interviews, where they're just checking boxes to say, yes, I technically interviewed, a black coach. And then other teams are almost saying, okay, well, I'm just using the same guy, because the rule says you have to interview, a black coach outside of your organization. So you can't just say my pre-existing defensive coordinator, I interviewed him, and that counts. You have to bring in somebody from outside your organization. So if you have Brian Flores who's going to 2 or 3 teams, each team gets to check the box that you interviewed a black coach. And if you feel like you're just doing this so people can just say they did it, there's a level of disrespect you'll feel, some humiliation. You're feeling you do a good job and you're just being put through the motions. And so, I mean, I feel for the brother. I think where he's at, as opposed to people will liken this to Colin Kaepernick, it's easy to dismiss Kaepernick because at the time when he started, he was benched. So Colin Kaepernick was already on the bench. They'd already gone to the next quarterback. He had a couple of bad games prior to him sitting out. So it's easy to sit there and say, well, you're only protesting, you're only making noise because your career is over, or because you're not playing well. So you're just crying because you're on the bench. It was very easy to use that as a narrative for Colin Kaepernick. That's not the case for Brian Flores. So Brian Flores is coming off of back-to-back winning seasons with a subpar team, and literally the bottom 5, the 5th worst quarterback in the league. He was able to string together these wins. So you can't even make that, well, he was mediocre, or he's a very good quarterback, very good coach. So for him to stand up and to risk it in this position, there's going to be a lot more weight to it. And you can't just dismiss what he's saying because you're saying he's not qualified or he's not good, especially when you start looking at the people who are getting these positions and getting these looks. And even with the validity of the text message, it came from a coach that he had worked with from a team that Belichick had been at, with other guys who had coached with Belichick. So it's not like the Giants, their statement was, well, Belichick's not in our building and he doesn't know the ins and outs. That's not true, because he referred the last coach that they hired, and he has ins with the organization, and he would know if they had already decided on the direction they went. There's a lot of validity to Brian Flores' argument. It's just that he's in a position, he's still a young man, to say that, something that he loves doing, that he's very good at, that he may just have to walk away from forever because he's taking this stand.
It's just amazing to me that he's doing this. And again, knowing history, if he wins, I'm hoping for the best. If this brother wins, this is gonna help all of us. Like selfless acts like this. I know people are struggling and money is tight, and man, I understand how this society works, but sometimes we relegate our helping Black people to voting or to just participating in social commentary.
Yeah.
Bro, this is actually how change gets made. If we look at Malcolm, I don't care how you felt about Martin. Look at all these brothers. These brothers died in their 30s, man. They could have been
very much so
educators.
Martin very easily
been a great pastor and raked in that cash. They chose to say, "Know what? My people not getting treated right. I'm gonna help them." Now, real quick, Jermaine, I want to play a quick video, just real quick, of why he's doing what he's doing, which I think is the catalyst for all of this. I think this is the reason why I admire this brother. So let me take a look at it real quick. Roll that beautiful bean footage. I always want to say that. Okay, hold on one second. And I think this was a good interview. The interviewer, I forgot what this gentleman's name is, but he did a good job. I like that he even had him on the show. So let's go.
You needed to do that because we need change. That was the number one reason. And I know there's a sacrifice, there's risk to that, but at the end of the day, we need change. We need change. I know many very capable Black coaches, some of my staff who I know, if given an opportunity or when given an opportunity, are going to go and do a great job on their interview. And I would just hate for that to be a waste. And I think, we need to change the hearts and minds of the people making those decisions. That's why we filed the lawsuit. Who are those?
Okay, boom. Yeah, we know who those people are. But boom. See that, Jermaine? So he's going right to, I could be done, but the coach is coming behind me.
Yeah.
The coach is coming behind me. I got young coaches. I got defensive coordinators. And I see them, and I know they can do this job. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this hit. I may get some money from it, whatever. But he speaks to how much he loves coaching, so he ain't worried about the money. He look young. He can do this. You know how NFL coaches coach today 75.
Yeah. I mean, he's very, very young.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He got 30 years left in this coaching in this coaching thing. But he's saying, you know what? For my people, for the other coaches behind me, I'm gonna take that risk, and I admire that, Jermaine.
Yeah, and that's an example of being on code. That's an example of saying that this is not for me, this is for us. That I could very easily just fall back, like I said, take a coordinator job, sit the bench 2-3 years, and maybe another break might present itself, or I can just get my checks as a coordinator on the bench somewhere. But to say that no, this is something that needs to stop. This is something that it fundamentally goes against what this league keeps trying to promote when it pertains to diversity and inclusion and all these PSAs that they do. And let's paint, BLM on the field and, signs of solidarity and all these other areas. Okay, well, let's live up to some of this talk. And what will happen. So even if you get to the point to where it's the equivalent of what the Rooney Rule was, if all of a sudden some coaches get breaks just to save face for organizations, if you get there'll be a meeting amongst the owners of the different teams. And if they decide, look, okay, all you guys who are making coaching changes in the next 5 years, at least 2 or 3 of y'all hire a Black coach just so we can make this go away. If that ends up being the result, you'll give an opportunity to those 2 or 3 coaches, and depending upon what they do with it, can open the door for somebody else. Like, people forget, for the longest, they wouldn't have Black starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
True.
The narrative was that Black athletes lacked the cerebral, abilities to make the decisions and weren't smart enough to play the quarterback position. And then all of a sudden you start seeing a couple of guys, you get, Warren Moon was the anomaly because he wasn't a scrambler. He was one of the best pure passing pocket quarterbacks ever, but he had to go to Canada first because they wouldn't give him a shot here in America. And then you get Doug Williams, who comes out of nowhere, and he wins the Super Bowl with Washington. And you start seeing flash the pans, your Randall Cunninghams. You start seeing all these guys start going, and then people start realizing you start winning. You start getting some black quarterbacks who start doing big things. Now you start looking at them. You start looking across the spectrum of these quarterbacks. You see Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, and you start seeing people start winning with these quarterbacks. So now it's open. I think he's probably looking for maybe the same thing can happen with coaching. You know, you got Mike Tomlin, whose 15-year career has never had a losing record. You had an era where there was 2 coaches, the Super Bowl. You had Tony Dungy against Lovie Smith, two black coaches in the Super Bowl. If you start getting enough cases of black coaches starting to win, even if the reason why they got the chance was flimsy or even just superficial, but if you give them a chance to get in and they start winning, that may open the door for more opportunities for coaches coming down the line.
Definitely. So I think that can happen. And I'm understanding that because I'm always for us getting our own. I know it's taboo to agree. I know taboo to a degree. I know some people think it's difficult, but our own league, our own things, I think can mitigate some of this because with all the NFL players being mostly black, I mean, come on, there's no way we're not capable. So we're capable to run and be athletic for you, but we're not capable to think. I don't like that dichotomy. I don't like how that works out. So I always say get our own. But if you're going to participate in the institutions that have already been established, let's infiltrate them in the correct way. And I think what the brother's doing is brilliant. I hate that there's a strong possibility that this brother may end up coaching in college or somewhere that's not the NFL. But Jermaine, here, before we go to the next topic real quick, what do you think about, because I was thinking maybe if an NFL coach hired him, that would create they would be considered the most diverse team in the NFL. They would be considered the beacon of hope almost. People would look at them like they give chances. You know what I mean? I think people in the media would look at them highly if they made that chance. Or
so you got to remember, there are organizations who've had a history of black coaches. You know, Art Shell with the Raiders was unheard of when he got a shot at head coaching. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals, for the longest, everybody was like, what pictures does Marvin Lewis have that he got to keep his job for so long?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. Everybody just for sure knew he was about to be fired at the end of the year, and he was back one more time. There are teams who have done right by black coaches historically. It's just too many of them that have not. And when you start looking at ownership, like there's an opportunity actually on the table now. So a couple of years, so Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he bought the XFL from Vince McMahon. That league that Vince had a few years back. Yeah. So Rock bought that league. You know, that Rock Daddy black, you know, well, people forget, you know, everybody think he's Samoan when they see him, but Rocky's daddy looked like Apollo Creed, you know, just
he looked just like Apollo Creed.
Right. Dwayne Johnson's daddy's African. So you know, an opportunity for another league like that to where you can start saying, okay, we got, you know, for all intents and purposes, a black man who's owner of a professional league. You can start plugging into some HBCUs, or you may not be able to get the $50 million NFL deal, but here may be an alternative with a league that's owned by a black owner. And there may be opportunities in that route. And you just starting over and start, you know, coming with a new paradigm of what we think of professional sports. But all that stuff is going to be predicated on staying on code.
Ain't that the truth? And it's funny you say that because many people thought Dion going to a HBCU, and I love what that brother's doing. Going to a HBCU, I've seen interviews and analysts would say, hey, that's good for Dion, but ain't no top star recruits gonna go to no HBCU. Boom. Yeah. Look what happened. Because Dion, I hope the brother doesn't leave that school. I hope he doesn't build that school up and then leave, but whatever. He could have just aimed for a D1 school. That could have been his aim. Like, I'm not even going to look at no HBCU. I'm going to aim for a D1. And it looks like because of his experience being at a D1, playing in the NFL, he sees some of the inequities like from a different lens, like the locker room and the training staff.
Yeah.
He sees some of this stuff like, wait a minute. I know we just HBCU, but this, and this needs to be on a higher level. So you never know. You're right. It could be the same. And I didn't know The Rock bought the XFL, but Jermaine, I think all it would take is, let's say, a top NCAA recruit or a quarterback that's, let's say Lamar Jackson said, I'm going to the XFL. It changes everything.
It does.
People going to follow him. You know what I mean?
And so I've always been a believer. So you take something like Revolt, which is Sean Combs, and you take even network that are owned by like Byron Allen, And if you sit there and say, look, okay, we're going to set up deals to where we show all the HBCU events and games of every sport. So we'll show, here's, HBCU basketball, HBCU football, here's the homecomings, here's all this sort of stuff that we exclusively show all the HBCU stuff on. Because the biggest reason why people don't go to HBCUs in sports, because you don't get the looks. No nationally televised games. You don't get the looks when it comes to drafts and scouts and that sort of stuff. So some of these Black-owned networks, if they start covering all the HBCU events and stuff and highlighting those areas, you start getting the following and the viewing, then you start getting the endorsements and the advertisers. Then you start getting more attention paid to those areas. And so then you start saying, okay, you start all these multi-millionaires and stuff. You start getting these events and these arenas and these stadiums and all that stuff. Okay, this is where we're holding all of these big games and events. And then you get somebody like Dwayne Johnson who's got the XFL and a Black-owned league. And then you start looking at your teams. Now you're in control of who you start selling these teams to in different regions. Opportunities for Black millionaires, and now in this case we've got billionaires, to maybe own one of the professional teams in those leagues. And then you start doing those. You start sending these top recruits from these HBCUs and start funneling them into those Black leagues. And then you get players who are on the back ends of their careers, who's already made their 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100 million contracts, who maybe want to play 2 or 3 years left, finish their career in an XFL. Do you know what I mean? And so you start funneling this money and opportunities, and then you'll start seeing the AT&Ts and the McDonald's and all those stuff start showing up when they realize there's a following and there's a money. And then you start getting in a position. So you may never get the contract that you can get in the NFL, but you can still eat pretty well. And your professional career is only 3 to 5 years anyway. So you may get 6 or 7 in the XFL, because they may be a little less inclined to cut you because they don't have so many people pouring in. And there's just a lot of opportunities, but that's going to have to start with, there has to be an us mentality.
Us mentality. It's funny you say that. That makes me think of the Negro Leagues. Like before they
same premise,
stifled all the goddamn players. The stadiums were packed. Everybody in the stadium, it was a Black person selling the food, a Black person with the shirts. It was a whole Black network, and they were successful, and they was very talented and more entertaining than the major leagues. They
merchandise, trading cards, they had the whole nine.
More entertaining too. And we seen that league open it up to us, and for whatever reason we think, okay, white ice is colder, I'm gonna go over there. So I say all that to say everything Brian Flores is doing is great. I wish the brother the best. I think if he wins this case, this can be great for us. And I'm just hopeful, man. Hopefully this leads to something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or if nothing else, it's eye-opening and pushes to start the other league.
There we go. There we
go. If it's really just a slap in the face of, they are never going to bend on this.
Yeah.
So instead of, okay, we done everything, they even lost the lawsuit and they still not giving. All right, maybe that's what we need to see and hear to decide to finally go over there.
Yep. Because the NFL, when the lawyers put forward this lawsuit, they denied it like 30 minutes later. It was like, wait a minute, wait. Y'all ain't even had enough time to go through the details. It's 58 pages. 30 minutes in, they're like, no. He lying. I get they trying to protect their brand.
They got deep pockets.
They immediately. So last thing I want to touch on with my brother, I made a video week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, about interracial dating. And to me, just to give my stance, this is just, it's always the elephant in the room when I'm in certain areas or when I'm listening to certain things. And I have a particular perspective about just a Black man dating a white woman. It's really nuanced though. Like I'm not one of these brothers who say just it's something you can't do. There's some variations to it. So I made a video a couple weeks ago about Black men dating. I played a video actually of Dr. Umar Johnson talking to some brothers who dated white women, and they were adamant about, I date a white woman, I can still be revolutionary. They didn't speak to what they did, but they said, hey, I can still be revolutionary. I'm not responsible for like the image of Black love and leadership. That don't mean I have to date a Black woman. Dr. Umar's biggest thing was, you date a white woman, you transfer your finances. When you die, a white woman is responsible for where your money goes. Let's say you have $1 billion. She's responsible for your $1 billion. That's technically that's true. But Jermaine, give me your full outlook on if a black man dates a white woman, can he not be revolutionary still?
So there's certain words that I always kind of watch to see what we're talking about. So when you so revolutionary is one of those words.
Yes.
So can you do something that is beneficially impactful within the community? Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
So the fact of the matter is that and I've made this statement in different social circles where I said, like, I've been around a company of men who, for all intents and purposes, be labeled as revolutionary. They're involved and impactful when it comes to education, protection of women, when it comes to, stressing, finances, like all the stuff that's beneficial to Black people. But I've never seen their significant other.
Oh, yeah, you told me this before.
So could I sit there and say that, well, for all I know, this gentleman standing next to me who's helpful in the educational process of helping to teach, business and finance to our young Black boys and girls, if he has a white woman at home, I have no idea.
Makes sense.
So could I sit there and say, well, he's got nothing to give and he's nothing to contribute because he doesn't have a Black woman at home? I can't honestly say that because I don't know. Like I've never gone around taking a poll on who these people, for all I know, they're not even all heterosexual to the best of my ability. Like I couldn't tell you because I've never seen them with somebody. So I think that there are people out there who are doing things that people would label as revolutionary who do not have Black mates. I do believe so me and Dr. Umar, I've been in his presence on multiple occasions, and I don't share the view. So here's something that he does, that he says, which I do believe is important, because this part always gets left out when he talks about interracial dating. He was stressing the idea that it's not that that a Black man can't go out and find a non-Black woman of genuine love, no ulterior motives, not because he's a sellout, not because she's this, but two people can genuinely find each other and find love. That's not the issue. He said the issue is that if you're a Black man, you have a responsibility to love a Black woman. So it doesn't mean that the Latina woman you found, the Asian woman you found, the white woman you found, that's not genuine love. It just means that you have a responsibility to love and marry and have a family with a Black woman, even to the point to where, and it sounds cold, if that Black woman wasn't your first choice, that's your duty.
Huh.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have your looks, your whatever, but when you settle down and have children and establish a family and pass down resources and build a community, it needs to be a Black with a Black woman.
Definitely. And because I can't lie, like when I think of my sons dating, the first thing that comes to my mind is them dating a Black woman.
Okay.
And my grandkids being Black. That I'm not gonna lie about that or deny that feeling that comes over me, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's okay, because when there are other groups of people who may not speak it out loud, but their kids are aware that I prefer you to be with someone who looks like me. Now, to me, if that's based on some racist shit, like you don't want them to be with a different race of people because it's gonna pollute your genealogy or anything. I'm not with that. Like, doing it because of you don't like another race of people, you don't like their hair, you don't like how they look. I don't like that shit. But who you fall in love with is who you fall in love with. And I'm of the understanding that you can be a revolutionary brother and still be with a woman that don't look like you. And when it's time for you to not be here anymore, I think if you make it known your love for Black people, if you make it known like what side you're on, you don't have to be boisterous or say it real loud, but if your mate knows what you're concerned about, and they're still with you, in my mind, they'll make sure your kids get they get what you had and get what they deserve, and things continue if you're real popular or have a lot of money or whatever. But I'm not gonna, if I see a person say, hey, I want my kids to just date Black women, I'm gonna just date Black women. If you don't date Black women, I think you should. I'm not gonna knock that, because that can help us. Like that's not a horrible thing. I just don't mind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think in being honest, in the course of my life, I have dated non-Black women. And so periodically through. So I'll be 45 this year. So during the course, there's some sprinkling during the course of my life. So the narrative of, well, if you're Black and you have a non-Black mate, you hate yourself and you hate your mama, to me, it's just not true. So if you black and you have a non-black mate, okay, now you hate your mom and you hate yourself, but that relationship ends and the next woman you're with is black. Does that mean you love your mom again? I mean, like, okay, then you got the non-black person. Okay, now you hate yourself again, but then you date 2 or 3 black people in a row. So now you back on board now. Like, I think that I think it's a little deeper than that, than just to make that.
So and then, but I have seen if there is a brother who I've seen brothers who say I only date
that's different
white women.
That's
because
different.
And then they mention negative attributes to black women. They loud, they crazy, they don't listen, they don't do what I want them to do. They're not feminine enough. All these things. I'm like, okay, I don't like that.
That's a different conversation.
That's a different.
So I've never dated anybody for any reason because somebody else wasn't something. You know what I mean? That's even if you're comparing amongst black women, if you're saying, well, I'm with her because she's not like her, that's to me that I would look a little suspect if I was the one he chose. Because that means the motivation for why he's with you is actually another woman. Like his focus is already, little shaky. So yeah, whenever I start hearing the I never, just this, or I've known those black men too that are like black women are this, and this, or black women who are like black men are this, this, and this. Even if the this, and this are behaviors of black people. If you're like, if you're a black man and you only date black women, but you have this pattern of derogatory things to say about black women, then I still start with what's going on with you.
Yep.
Because out of all the millions of black women walking around, you seem to find the same ones that seem like they grew up in the same house. Like as diverse and multifaceted as we are, if you keep finding this carbon copy, there's something you're going to find her in every color. You're going to find her in every color. If that's the case, that you keep finding this particular type, it's got nothing to do with because she's black.
Yeah.
But so for me, so to your original point is, can you be revolutionary? Can you be for community? Can you be beneficial? Can you be helpful? Yes. Now, some will argue, how committed are you? That could be a valid point. If you take Dr. Umar, he said you can tell how you can't talk black but sleep white. One of his phrases. You can make the argument on how committed you are if you didn't commit yourself wholeheartedly to a black woman. If you're a black man, you can make that discussion if you so choose to. But I definitely think that you can still be beneficial to the community. I think you can still. And like I said, for the whole reason why my original premise is there's so many black men who I've seen involved and black women I've seen involved who I've never met their mate.
Yep.
So so for all I know, none of them are going home to a black person.
Yeah, and you can have a black right.
Yeah.
And you can have a black man who has a white woman or Mexican or Asian or whatever, and you just like you said, you see the brother putting in work. It's obviously how you feel about us. Then you can see a black man with a black woman, and he don't give a shit about black people.
Exactly.
He don't care. He talks shit about us. He don't care at all. So you have to look at the nuances of the situation. But sometimes I think we're so reactionary to these things that are going on because a lot of things hasn't worked. Like we're still in the same position when it comes to a lot of things. So when I see brothers like Dr. Umar, because he's a polarizing figure in our community, and there's other people like him, and I've come to the realization that if you're a black man who ultimately I can tell your goal is to help us, that I have a certain level of appreciation for you. Now, if you help us, but you got an ego or you are or you have these other traits that I may not like, I'm okay with that, man, because I don't have to like everything about you. Kind of like the being on code thing in my opinion. If you haven't done something that's so derogatory towards us where I can't trust you, if just you got an ego or you're not a good businessman or something, I'm not going to say, okay, you're not for us and you're going to rob us. But overall, if you're looking to improve us, you're going to be a person or a man who makes mistakes. If you go out and have sex and do all this shit, and I don't care, as long as at the end of the day, you for us.
Yeah, the code part is, so we're not in a position to where we don't educate our own children. We don't feed our own people. We don't handle our own banking institutions. We're not in control of our own protection amongst us as a community. Like we're all these things, the base level things to have a self-sustained community, we don't have. So if all of a sudden some brothers came in or some sisters came in and said, okay, we're building schools here in this area. We're putting banking systems in here. We're putting grocery stores and opportunities for the people of the community to work and to be able to provide. If I then found out that their significant other was not Black, I'm not going to say take your grocery store back. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
this meat is contaminated. This
yeah,
is white.
yeah. We didn't need them laptops anyway. You know, we didn't. You know, so I mean, sometimes what are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when I go down the line of the most pressing issues, that to me is a back end issue.
Yes, sir.
So I look at the protection of our women and girls. I look at the emotional academics that need to happen with our young boys. The emotional intelligence that needs to be cultivated and grown and understood. I look at the need for having resources that we can be self-sustained. The fact that we put ourselves in positions to where we can do for ourselves and have for ourselves. By the time I get to who you're sleeping with, we pretty far down the list.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? That's just me. So other people feel differently. The hierarchy is different, you know, but to me, you know, if you know, most of our Black women who are harmed and killed are at the hands of people who look like us.
Yes.
So that's where I'm starting. When I look at, you know, miseducation and misleading of our young boys, it's from people who look like us.
Yep.
You know, when it's things that, you know, so there's just a pecking order of what I think is more pertinent, and it's not who you went home with Saturday night.
Definitely. And I think just speaking on us being on code, because when we look at like the quote unquote conscious Black community and just men who consider themselves ones who want to see us progress, I think one of the important pieces that I'm uncomfortable with is, like you said, so if a man is on the right path, you guys are walking the same direction.
Yeah.
But along that direction, he tells you a few things about himself that you don't like. He says something that you're uncomfortable with. I think a conversation should be had. Then we can continue to be on code. If we are looking to show like progress, but there's a lot of infighting, I think reduces everything to like a minimal level. Everybody because sometimes when I'm learning too, let's say you don't agree with what someone says and you're popular and he's popular. People are listening to what both of you say.
Yeah.
The biggest thing you can do is don't say anything. And then, like you were saying, you don't have to say anything. Then you can get his phone number and say, hey, let's talk in private. And let's say y'all had a conversation where y'all argued and then got back on the same page. You don't have to tell nobody.
It doesn't need to be on the internet.
You don't have to tell nobody.
And my thing is, if we have so many in-house issues that do not necessarily pertain to, well, he's Muslim, he's Christian, these are Moorish brothers, these you still call yourself Black, you still playing the white Jesus, you still doing this, and we get into all these ideological arguments that have nothing to do with the foundational things that we need to do to make these changes. To me, those are right next to who you're going home and who you're sleeping with.
Yep.
You know, if praying to Jesus helped create this school for these kids, fine.
More power.
And then if Allah put the bank up, if Buddha got the security in place, if the universe is what got, like, you know what I mean? Like whatever, that to me is not where we start.
Very true.
Well, you're ADOS. Well, you're more, and I'm indigenous, and I'm this, and I'm that. Oh, man, you're Tony. Let's get to work. You know, like there's certain things.
Your name is actually Tony. Let's just get to work.
Yeah,
as long as we're going in the same direction.
And it's not disrespect to those folks who stand on those, and those are important to them. Those things are pressing, and those are first level things to them.
Yes,
they're just personally not to me. So that's right up there where he's a Kappa and he's a Q. Like man, pick up a shovel.
Pick up a shovel, Kappa.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Put on some Atomic Dog and let's get to digging. You know,
as long as we digging together, we can have a little side conversation about what we don't agree with.
Whatever.
But we still digging this hole together.
Let's have the conversation at the finish line.
At the finish line.
Let's have the conversation at the finish line.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's why I brought you on, brother, because I think clarity. We need clarity, bro. Like a lot of the things we go through, people will have issues, and I'm saying to myself, I'm always understanding. Damn, I understand why you can feel that way.
Yeah.
But what that got to do with these police killing us, bro? We need to get together in some forum because this guy's useful. This guy that you said something crazy. You're right. What he said, I was like, but God, is he useful? I've seen him do so many other things that are beneficial, and he helps people. If y'all two got together, oh my God. This world, what y'all resources and who y'all know and what y'all have done, do one of these things together. We there. Then people gonna look at this community we created and be like, wait a minute, they all came together? How we gonna separate them? What we gonna use to, you see what I'm saying? So I'm always gonna push for that because I'm in this space where I'm talking. I can't deny the fact that a part of my inception is talking is I've been listening to a lot of Black people talk.
Yeah.
People that I, excuse me, people that I respect, people that I think have a good idea for a school or a good show or a good documentary or good. I'm like, damn, I actually like all of these dudes, but there's things in situations and things I've seen that I'm like, I don't like that. So what do? Do I just throw them out? Because one day he said something I don't like, or one day he's shown me a part of his personality that I said, that's kind of flawed. Do I just throw him out? We can't just throw everybody out, right? Like,
I mean, we're not in a position to be throwing everybody out. Like if we keeping it a buck, we're having a real conversation. We are not in a position to just be throwing people away. The ratio of where our prime Black men are, the ones that are really in a position to build and to learn and to grow up for this next run, this next generation coming, these numbers are light. The gap that's growing between our Black men and Black women, though exponentially, Black men, it's like 85% of all Black married men are married to Black women. Like, we are still coming together. Don't let the narrative that we just can't get along. That is just not true. But that gap is far enough that we need to start coming together a little bit more, to trusting one another. Like, we got a lot of ground to make up and a lot of stuff to work on. And this idea that we need to just start throwing somebody away every time we have a disagreement or an ideological difference or any of those things, unless you're doing something that is cancerous to the neighborhood, you're touching on kids, you're assaulting our women, you're doing stuff that you got to get up on out. There's a lot of stuff that, and we throw away our young people at 19. We don't leave. We need to, it's not about who can we cast out. It's back to the original point. It's a need to circle the wagon and pour in. It's not about who do we need to hurry and get out of here first. It's about, no, we need to circle around and actually take care of, raise, and love on the ones that are here. Because that's what actually leads to, a lot of the problems. The stuff we started with Whoopi was, man's inhumanity to man. Well, the lack of love and identification within each other is the top of the pyramid for most of our problems. We don't see ourselves in each other, and we don't have that love connection for another person because a lot of times we feel like it is not reciprocated. So it's easy to, well, that's his problem. She'll figure it out. Get him up out of here, because we don't see that circle the wagon, that connectivity, that we are one. So instead of like I said, looking for reasons to separate, it's appreciate the reasons why we need to turn back in. If you a Muslim, if you a Christian, if you a Moor, if you whatever, is the name of your pocket, we're all melanated. And here's the deal. You can call yourself whatever you want. They call us all by the same name.
At the end of the day.
So if you think that you're not on the same team, wait to see what the back of the jersey is. They'll give you a step.
Damn, that's why.
So
that's a great way to put it, Jermaine.
If they pick the team name, it's going to stay the same on the back of your jersey. So instead of looking for reasons to separate, that needs to be the belief and understanding of why we need to pull together.
Definitely. So I appreciate having a brother on just to talk about latest things going on in our community, and we need to be less reactionary. That's why I'm creating my style of doing this, everybody. I thank you, everybody who's been going through the changes I make in the different ways that I do certain things.
This
I
growth.
appreciate all of it. It's I'm growing and I'm learning. How can I be most at benefit to my people? I don't want to be slanderous. I don't want to be a clickbait person who has to put someone's name in the headline. So I'm learning that I can talk about what one of my brothers or sisters are doing without hating them, without being. I want them to watch what I say and say, all right, I see what he's saying. Let me talk to him. You should never be on your platform talking about a celebrity and being salacious. Oh, fuck them. I hate them. What they doing? Like, there's a way to not like what someone's doing, but have a healthy conversation about, okay, what actually happened? Why don't we like it? Maybe that person can hear it and learn from it. But to do that with the intent of putting their name in the headline and saying exposed.
No.
Who are you exposing? Why? Why are you exposing them? For clicks, for likes, for views? None of that means anything if you're really trying to get something done.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to be successful and have money and have acclaim, be able to write a book or do something off of you talking or empowering people? But the way that you take to get there is important to me, y'all.
No.
The way that you take to get there is important. I'm learning. I'm not doing nothing that's beyond my personality. I'm hearing people lately on the internet, I'm not gonna say names, people I admire, people I say, why is this guy popular? This is what I do, Jermaine. I don't care. You're talking about hip hop, you're talking about rappers, you're talking about, I listen and I say, okay, why do they like him? Let me hear it real quick. And I hear them say things like, I'm playing a character. I'm just riling people up. I'm like, damn. So you gonna lie to me for money or for clout? What you gonna lie to me? I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I may see people in the street. I may see you. Whatever I say about you on this camera, I'm going to say it right in your face. And I think that's where we have to get as a people. We don't need attention that much. I understand we've been deprived of attention. And once you get a mic in your face, you think, and you be enclosed in your house and you're not on TV. So you can say whatever you want to say about anybody. I don't do that. I say it like you right here, no matter who you are. You know what I mean? So this has been another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show. Digital listeners, I appreciate you. The numbers are going up. Please like the video. Please leave a comment. Do whatever you can to tell your friends about it. If you want to watch the video, go to the Melanated Convo on YouTube. Video listeners, I appreciate you guys as well. Like the video, share the video. Jermaine, do me a favor and tell everybody where they can find you, brother.
Oh, shoot, man. We just keep it social media. The easiest to find me, every social media platform, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, anything. It's all the same. It's at J Morris CEO.
Definitely. And you can find me at the Melanated Convo 100. That's my Instagram page for the show and everything I do here. My personal Instagram page is Southpaw 100. Again, family, I appreciate everybody listening to us today. We out.